Okay, at last, the Plastistrut has arrived, all right? So this is just basically 60-degree triangles, obviously being a triangle, all right? And then they are 4mm in diameter. What that means is they're gonna fit perfectly into here for what we need. Now we've cut these as well to exactly 19 centimeters in length, which I've used the original parts for this one to show these ones going on. So these ones down in here are Marquette stuff. It's by Albion Alloys, they actually do it. So it's just basically a 5-piece. And again, this is one 4mm we did it, and obviously by 33 centimeters, we've cut a bit off of each one to go through. So fixing these is going to be somewhat of a little issue. You have got these little triangles, which if you wanted to, you could bore them out and put them on the inside. To be honest, I'm not that worried about it. We've got a nice little step that these will ridge up against, but they are perfect size for it. So what I'm going to do is, to make it a little bit easier, just next to me I've got a little lid when it's got some super glue down in there. But what I've got here is some kicker, and we're going to pre-spray each of the areas where these are going to go in. All right, so we just take some glue on the rod, and then we're going to come along, because it's got kicker on one side, hopefully. We just hold, and we can get the kicker to do its bit. There we go, it's in. All right, and that's the easiest way. Then we're going to take a little bit of glue, and we're just going to put another little bit just on the inside, and then the same thing is going to go again. A little bit of kicker. We've got our rod, nice dollop of glue. Make it sure it's in the right position. Give a bit of a blow. Get the kicker to kick. And there we go, go again. And then again, another little dollop of glue just on the inside. And when we rotate it, of course, what happens is the overspray from that will go across. And again, we've got a little bit of kick, glue, super glue. And then it's going to come in, glue in. And because obviously we've sprayed one half of it already, it just makes it lock really well. All right, so that's 2, and we've just got the final one just down in here. Good dollop of glue into position. Let it start to bite a bit, and then obviously again another bit of glue just down in there. And there we go, that's our rod system sat on there just like that. So I'll just leave that stood up to dry for one side. As good old, we've got some done already. So this is the one we did just before. All right, move this out of the way a little bit. And then what can happen is, this comes along. Now it's, remember to put the flat plate goes acrossways, all right, from the rear. The rest of these should just all come in. Then if we've done this correctly, these then line up into here and will come across, and we've got this one as well, and he's going to come across, and they're going to fit into those and be absolutely perfect fits just like that. And again, we can super glue these in place, so if you wanted to, you can do a simple measure job. So we've got it from there, and it's going to run to here. Don't get super glue ideally on the other one, and I think I've just broke one in my speed. Just crushed one off, hold on. All right, that's not a problem. What we'll do is we'll pop that one in afterwards. So then what we do, we've got just a little brush here, a little bit of glue down in here. I think I've made a little bit of an error, which I might fix. And this is because what I've done is I've super glued the parts on without cleaning off some of the residue areas. All right, so this is going to come in, and then obviously we'll just hold it into place. Once we've got one on, there we go. Then we can just easily come in with 2 on like this, and again, depending on which way you want to do it, you could come along in here. We've got quite a large area here, so to be honest, I think it's going to be okay, but I think for ease of doing this, it's easier to put it onto the flat edge underneath. There's that excess. In and in. little bit of a nudge. All right. And this is how we're going to glue them all on. So again, what we'll do, we'll flip over and we'll do exactly the same on the underside. What I would highly recommend, and this is the schoolboy error with super glue, is that you can probably see down in here if the paint has actually come away. And that's the reason it just literally came off just like that. So what you want to do is obviously we will reattach this, pop it back on. So for that, we'll just flip this guy over. All right, and then obviously we will come in and we'll get this one glued in here again, just down the back. And then obviously we can come along and then we'll glue those in. So what we'll do, we'll get all of those in place onto there. Once we've got them all in like that, what we're going to do is give it another coat of primer, just because my OCD wants it all to be grey, and then we can think about getting some paint on it. Okay, so next up, we have the Y-wing all completely dry. To be honest, this has been drying about a week since I actually primed it up, and it's looking really, really good, as you can see. So very happy of how it's turned out. The front end is still a loose fit, so we can actually get that off now. But what we need to do is actually get a first coat of paint on this. Now, I am still undecided what to do this. Do we do it as a gold, perhaps as a blue? We could do it as a green. Technically, it's sci-fi. Sci-fi? Star Wars. Is Star Wars sci-fi? No, it's real. Anyway, the thing is that what colour scheme are we going to put this one in? I literally cannot make my mind up. I want to do it in sort of red marking, sort of red jammer type look to it. Obviously gold we've done before with gold leader. Still in my mind I have this thing about if we have this one, then we have that one, and then one day I do the big one. If they're all in the same colour scheme, that would look really, really cool. So because I haven't made my mind up yet, what I thought was we could just turn our attention to painting it white. But when I say white, I don't actually mean white, because as a lot of us know, obviously in the sci-fi universe and of Star Wars, they use a lot of paints from at the time in the 70s called Floquil, and Floquil was readily available, and it was basically a modelling paint, and they just used Floquil white. Now Floquil white was a little bit of a sort of funny shade colour and all the rest of it. It's basically an off-white. We're not talking magnolia here, but we're talking something getting close to it in a lot of ways. So for us, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting off with, and to be honest, my white supply is a little bit limited. So I've got some Tamiya XF4, all right, and I've got down in here some Deck Tan, which is Tamiya's XF55, and for good measure, because I think it always helps with everything, a little bit of Dark Sea Grey, Tamiya's XF54. So the idea is I make a shade of off-white. Now, I just want to put this out there now. Yes, I know, acutely aware you can go off and buy paints. There's manufacturers out there of colour match paints and all the rest of it. I'll be honest with you, I'm in the camp that calls bullshit on that one, purely because when the modelers were making these of the original ones, it wasn't done by the book in a lot of cases. If you go back and read a lot of the research and you talk to people who were there, and obviously I've seen a lot on the internet and various things as well, it was always one of those things. They started off with all good intentions, but because of production and timing and stuff like that, sometimes it slipped a little bit. So colours were off colours and things like that. Also, the biggest difference is that I'm not dealing in a studio with 8 billion candle watt of light to illuminate the models to make them look good on set. I'm doing it here in a very nicely well lit studio. I'm going to be looking at it from a distance of probably around about ideally a foot away to give me the impressions of what I want, if not closer. But if you were shooting it from a camera, you're going to be a lot further away than the item. So you almost need to do what we call that pantomime paint, as I call it. All right. So by that, we mean lots of contrasting colours, so they show up well on camera. And that's the biggest difference between film props and obviously what we've got. If you look at film prop colours, they are normally more on the shade of grey than they are on white. But as we know, very light grey under intense bright light looks pretty much like white. So again, you're doing this thing of it's a little bit of a balance between you trying to keep it real and sort of pay homage to the real thing and the movie props, and also what's good for the eye and everything else. Also, the big thing is, as I often say, when you're painting any model, it's a start. All right, you're putting that first color down, it's going to be a start. After that, you're going to be weathering it. So for instance, with this little lump, you can see it looks quite white, perhaps from over there it looks very much white, but when we move in close up, as you can see, actually, it's not that white. It's very, very much a case of, yes, it's starting off quite white, but actually it's got lots of grey in there and lots of other colours. So, you know, especially sort of, you know, on the underside and things like that, it's not so bad down in here, but definitely on the top. Let this form between my legs, there it is. All right, as you can see. So again, it's one of these ones where sometimes reality of what we've got here and what we're going to do are going to be somewhat different. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to knock up our bit of paint to start with, and because we're going to need quite a bit of it because it's a large lump, we're going to do it into a little Pyrex dish so we can see exactly what we've got here as we go through the motions. So starting off with, I've shaken these really well to start with. We're going to come in with pretty much all, or in this case probably around about a good mil full. Obviously these aren't thin, these are only thinning out and everything, or half a colour cut. So that's like 5 mil of white down in there, just like that. Then we're going to come in with some of this. So this is that deck tan colour, and this is what's going to give you the magnolia effect, as I call it. So down in here, we're just going to go with a little slurp, probably around about a mil. All right, just down in there like that. And then to start with, we'll just see what we've got. Clean brush. All right, so down in here, we're going to start giving this a whiz. And what we're looking for is just a slightly off white, which to be honest, we're not that far off in there already. All right, that's looking pretty darn good. And again, one of those ones where you think, oh, that looks pretty much like white until you put white next to it. All right, once we get white next to this one, you'll see that actually they're not that white at all. So to prove that very fact, what I'm going to do is, just on my lovely colouring mat, we've got this one down in here. And then we'll take a little bit of true white. Brush a bit of a whiz. And there you go. You can see the differences between it. So again, quite a bit of difference down in there. All right. And then because we've got all of that down in there, what we're going to do is put the lids back on. We're just going to add a drop or two of grey. So the grey is going to act as a little bit of weathering. That's literally it. Literally, it's just a couple of drops of grey down into that mix. Then we give this a good whiz up. All right, so we're going to mix this quite a lot up. And this is my Starship colour, as I call it. So again, when we put it down in here, you can probably see, or hopefully see, the colours we've got there now. So again, it's one of those ones where obviously white, very strong. Obviously it's magnolia. Now we've just taken a little bit of a hint out of it. Also the thing is, it does look a little bit sort of creamy colour, but trust me, when you spray this, it's a lot lighter and it will go through and make everything look a lot better. All right, and literally that's how I make it up. Again, it's to taste. If you want to make it a little bit lighter, add a little bit of white to it. You want to make it a little bit darker, add a little bit more grey to it, and you can just play with the colours, and you can use it for post shading and things like that around on your model as well. So anyway, that's all pretty good. What we're going to do, get over into the spray bay, get the camera on, let's get some paint on it. Okay, so start off, check our spray. All right, so as I say, I've got the head on there. We'll do him slightly afterwards, do the body to start with. All right, so usual thing, just going to put down in 3 coats. All right, so starting off with just a nice little sort of lightish coat right the way over. As I say, it's quite big, so we're going to try and get this in as much as we can, but obviously you can imagine in here it's going to be a little bit choking in the spray. So again, we're just going to come in, but I've got a good coat of primer on this, so hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. To be honest, it does look a little bit on the creamy side, so what I might do on pass 2 is add a little bit more white to it. Alright, but we're going to get the extractors going, and we're just going to get a first coat of paint on this. Okay, so that's the base coat on, and I'm just thinking it looks a little bit, still a little bit creamy, if I'm honest. Alright, so if I just flip this over so you can see, a little bit still grey on the underside, needs another coat, but the top's just looking a little bit creamy. So what I've done is, I've just added another good couple of drops of white down into our mix, which is just here. Alright, so we've added quite a bit of white into this now. So it's more on the white shade than not. So if we put a thin coat of this over this, what it'll do is give us a better look. And to be honest, I switched over to a trigger airbrush because it's just so big. It takes so long that I thought it would be easier to use a trigger airbrush. So I'll just show you a little bit. All right, so this is more definitely on the white side now. And we're just going to come in, see how this looks. So I'm going to hit my extractor as soon as I finish talking to you, because it's very, very soggy. But that's definitely a better look. So again, added a few more drops. Again, this is a great thing. You just add a bit, you take away, add, subtract all the way through. So I'm going to hit the extractors and get the next coat on. And okay, looking very bright on camera. Trust me, it's not that bright. So there we go. All painted, all done. Hopefully it's probably dry to touch. Okay, so there we go. Hopefully now the camera will play ball. So we've got that nice off-white colour, and we've definitely now got the base of what we want to do with the actual colour scheme on this one. So again, what we need to do now is literally, I need to have a strong talk to myself and say, right, what are we going to do? Are we going to do it sort of the same as this one? Are we going to go for something different? And then what we're going to have to do is obviously mask up, get those areas put in. Once they're put in and the paintwork's done, then we can come back and do all the pipe work, of tons of it, literally tons of it to do. Should be quite a lot of fun because we're using bendable wire and all the rest of it. And we can do all the wiring. Once that's on, we can turn our attention onto the weathering and making our way through with it. But all in all, I think for that first pass, first coats and all the rest of it, it's gone really well. Okay, so next up, with the white work all done, completely dry, I've given it a couple of days for it to go off, we can actually get some colour onto this. Now this is where the wonderful world of sci-fi comes into play, because you can technically do anything you want. Okay, you've got the actual Star Wars universe, alright, so technically you've got the various colours and markings and that you should stick to, but if you're working into the expanded universe, which is the one I like, it's basically that thing, you do what you like. You can literally do what you like. You don't have to do it seen from the film. Obviously we've got over here Gold Leader, very famous from Star Wars, going in, doing the old trench run and all the rest of it. And I've recreated the markings for it and all the bits and pieces, and yeah, if you want to do that, you can do that one. And originally I was going to do it, and again I've spoken about maybe this scale, then we do a monster one in the future. But this is where my, I don't know, artistic flair, as you say, comes away, because the trouble is, if you're going to go down and try and do Gold Leader, you're pigeonholed into what it looks like, and you will be judged on what it looks like. If you go off and do your own one, like we're going to do, by different markings, things like that, you can actually then just go wild with it. And that's what I love about the hobby. As you know, I'm not one of these people who recreates, you know, aircraft or vehicles or whatever it is like a photograph. I like to put my own stamp on them. That's what I enjoy about it. I don't enjoy recreating something on a one-to-one basis. So sci-fi is probably why I absolutely love it and do more of it than anything else. So again, what we've actually done is started masking this one up, and what we've done is we've moved away slightly from what the original one said. So starting over here, you can see that instead of doing the band in front of this sort of area on the nacelle, this banding, on the normal kit, these are done in sort of like a grey-blue colour, and then the cockpit is done in that colour as well. Well, I've decided we're going to paint them green. We're going to have these as being the green, so it's a nice big identification mark on both sides. So we've gone round and we've masked all of those up just like that. All right, and then we're going to stick with the pattern, because I do like the pattern that is actually on here for actually doing it. So we've already done the underside, and really we've just followed the panel lines, but the panel lines on this, they're not the sharpest in the world, shall we say. So what we're having to do is work with a little bit what we've got. Now the panel lines are in here, as you can see them here, all right, but they're a little bit difficult to see and follow sometimes. So what we're doing for this is taking a little bit of tape. So we just got a little bit of Tamiya tape just down in here. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to take an ample piece of it, and we're going to go from the line, and the start of it is where this little nodule is, and it's going to finish down in here, and we're going to cover the entire area with the said tape. All right, so we want it to sort of come down. To be honest, we want to go a little bit more this way with it. All right, so we've covered it over just like that. So what we're going to try and do now is use our nail, or you could use a cocktail stick or whatever else you want, all right, is to find said panel line and try and figure out where it's going. So if you can catch it in the light here, we've started to figure this one out, and we're just going to use this, a little bit of burnishing really, and you can come down, and sometimes it's really easy to spot, other times it can be a little bit difficult. All right, but the trouble is, using a cocktail stick, it can jump out. If you use a ballpoint pen, it should follow. Not only does it give you a nice line of how it actually is, it should follow very lightly around the corner, because it's actually tracking in that line. Alright, so actually this is quite nice because it's trying to, although my pen is running out. But even if you've got, you know, no ink in it, you can literally come in, and if worst case scenario, you can actually draw this on as well. So again, it's just going to come down in here, and it comes off. And there we go. So that's our line that we need to follow. Alright, so that makes it pretty straightforward. Then you can take your said knife. So again, we're going to start somewhat from the middle, and we're just going to let it slowly, and we're going to guide it of course, but follow that line. So we've got a good target, alright, of how we want it to follow. Then over here we're going to drop back in it again, and we're just going to take it away. Alright, so that's that one done, and then we can hopefully come up, and obviously got that little bit just there, and there we go. So that gives us our line just like that. So that shows us where we're going to be going, and then obviously we can blank off the areas we need to, just like so. And again, making sure these are pushed in nice and tight. And then again, you know, there's a large part of me that actually wants to do this with the banding right the way around the side, but I want to put something down in here as well. So what we will do is obviously we're just going to tape off and mask in. So again, we're just going to drop it slightly lower. So we've got a small little line just down below on here. And then if you wanted to, because we have got a nice panel line just down in here as well, use our knife. And then hopefully, I'll get my knife just to cut through. There we go. So we've got a nice little band just down in there as well. So again, we can take it to those areas, or if you wanted to, you could just go to the top. It's personal choice on how you actually want to do this one. Again, it's one of those ones where I know some people want to go to the mold lines, other people want to take it exactly where it is, and as luck would have it, this fits beautifully just down on that side as well. So we've just got to do a little bit across here, so we'll pinch a bit of this tape. Make sure it's off out of the way, make sure it's off all out of the way, and there we go. Alright, so that's it. So then what we can do is we can pop the canopy on, and we'll actually pop that in properly, and then we can paint it all, and then we can paint the canopy as a separate afterwards if you wanted to. And I am going to slightly change this colour on the canopy, but our chosen colour for this in green is just something as basic as a flat green. So this is Tamiya's XF-5, which I think will work really, really well for this, because what we can do is we can chip, we can weather, we can do all different types of things with this as well. Alright, so again, I think it's just going to be one of those ones that will work very, very nicely as we make our way through with this one. So what we can do now is check all the masking, do a little bit more just on the edges, just to protect it a little bit more with some old cheap tape, or you know, some cling film, whatever you want to use. Get it in spray booth, we spray these, and then it should start to come alive. Then after that, what we're going to do is detail painting. So we're going to come along with metallizers and metals and things like that, and silvers, and we can pick out individual little greeblies and things right the way over the model to really make it pop, come to life. With that done, we can then start onto the weathering. Once the weathering's all in there, because we need to get in amongst it, we can get all the plumbing and all the pipe work and all things like that onto the model as well. Okay, so we've just made up a 50-50 mix of the actual XF-5 flat green. And then I'll tell you what, I won't destroy my nice clean cutting area, spraying area. We'll just pop this down here. And then what we can do is we can just put down a coat. So we're not going to go chipping fluid and all of that. We're going to do all of this post, as in afterwards. So we're just going to spray this on. Nice, good, solid colour. We're not worried about the framework at all for the actual canopy, because we're going to spray that differently. Sides. Yeah, nice strong colour for it all. And just down in here. You probably hear it's a nice strong high air pressure, purely because I want this as a sort of one and done. So just literally getting it on, just making sure tape's all pushed down nicely. And around on these. Okay. Draw a nice good thick coat. On there of the green, just like that. Alright, so you might want to let it dry and then you can come back afterwards and just make sure it's exactly how you want it to be. Alright, so we'll leave that just to dry like that. We've already sprayed the back end. Alright, so those are done as well. So those are all sorted in there and drying. And again, I'm going to let them dry, then just double check it, and then when we're happy, we'll come along, we'll get it unmasked. Can we see what we've got? Alright, once that's done, what we can do is, once it's dry, we'll pop the canopy off. Alright, then we'll paint the canopy completely separate again, so that's all done. Again, chances are we're going to come along with a little bit of acetate and just do some windows for it, because I think that'll work quite nicely at this scale. I think when you're smaller scales you don't really need them. Bigger scales I think you need a little bit of glare coming off. So we probably will line all the internals of the actual framework of the windows themselves when it comes to it. Okay, so next up we're going to spray the canopy. So a little bit of a homage back to the original. Some of the areas we painted on the original was XF-18. One of them, of course, was the canopy. So we did the canopy with it and these areas here. Alright, so we're going to come back, we're going to do it, but we're going to lighten it a little bit more. Alright, so what we've done is we've come in and we've probably done maybe 2 drops of XF-18 and then we've done 1 drop of white into that one just to lighten it up, so about 1/3. We've also masked and done the stripes for down the side. Now on the kit from Bandai you actually get decals. We don't have those, so we're going to actually spray ours in. So I've already got it loaded up just down in here. We can turn the air pressure down now because we don't need it quite as high as we've had it. Alright, and we'll just spray these. There we go, want a nice good solid colour on these. Making sure you go all to the edges, just like that. And then the same on this side. Alright, so we'll just leave that out of the way for a second. And then obviously we've got the canopy. So right the way over. And we're just going to spray up the entire canopy. And again, we are going to frame it, so with a little bit of glass. So make sure you get to the edges of the insides of all the frames, otherwise it's going to look rather odd. Alright, stand the backs. And these as well. Alright, it's looking quite nice. We like that. Let's pass. So there we go, that one's done. Right, we'll let them dry. We'll move back over the bench, get it unmasked, and we'll see what we got.